I think we are live on YouTube.
Yes, sir. On LinkedIn as well.
Okay, you got the alert?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On YouTube, I can't see actually. Yeah, we are live.
Yeah, we are live. So,
Okay, we have around 36 people on LinkedIn.
okay, that's nice. So as soon as we get any message, we can just tap on it on our right side and it will be displayed on the screen.
Okay.
Okay.
So you guys can start with the intro and then we'll take it forward.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to our weekend interaction. This has been organized through Mr. Rahul Dev, who is a patent attorney. He is an international speaker, an author, and a corporate technology lawyer with 15 plus years of work experience in Pacific, US, and Europe. His expertise is in patent strategy, patent valuations, trademark valuations, due diligence, corporate structuring, amongst others. Rahul and I are from Neeti Shastra, which is an organization run by students who are focusing on creating a network of law students to provide internships to students from different backgrounds. We welcome you all to this session. You can please post your questions in the comment box and we'll be addressing them one by one. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So this is an open session. We'll be discussing the most commonly asked questions that the related to challenges that you face when it comes to jobs, internships, your law school life. So feel free to ask your questions. And in the meantime, if Neeti Shastra team has any question which they generally face, we can start with that.
So to start on an informal note, we would like to ask you about the internship that you offer, because in our WhatsApp groups, the most common question is how to apply to Rahul sir's internship. Even today, so many students were discussing that. So if
So
you can give all of them a
sure.
brief.
Sure. So process is simple. I'll just give a brief about the internship we offer. It's not just any regular internship where interns are doing the regular task of uh, research or working in matters which generally happens in other firms. What we do is that we focus on internship as a program that okay, beyond your college life and before you enter the corporate life or as a litigation, you need to learn few skills. So we see internship as a skill building exercise. We focus on that. At the same time, on the flip side, we have some bandwidth issues. We have some constraints. So what we do is that we have limited number of, let's say, interns at a single point of time. But we try to maximize that by using technology tools. So as and when we are growing, especially post COVID, my effort is to ensure that our insights, our skill building exercises, these things reach maximum number of students, and they're able to capitalize on it. And regarding the application process, it's listed on the website, and more or less I keep on sharing updates on LinkedIn that how to apply, what all are what are the essential requirements, how to frame a cover letter. So people, students who are following me, there are a lot of students who follow me quite closely, so I get good applications from those. So again, LinkedIn is the primary source, and keep following the updates. That would be the answer.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. We have received one question by Shreya Sharma, how to approach an interview with a corporate firm.
Sure. So with corporate firm, I assume that Shreya is referring to a corporate law firm. So, see, few years back, 10, 15 years back, there was a clear-cut distinction, litigation versus corporate. Any firm that is doing work that does not relate to court practice, that fell under the scope of corporate law. But now the corporate world is quite vast. You have very few firms, top tier firms that are corporate law firms. You have specialized firms now. You have firms that are focusing on real estate. So you need to study RERA and then see if you fit in that practice area. Then you have IBC, then you have IPR. Then you have arbitration and mediation, alternate dispute resolution. So these are practice areas are growing so specialized, they are going so deep that you need to focus at least on the category within corporate. You can't just have a universal approach that I want to go for a corporate job, I'll go for this. And if she is referring to a setup which is a corporate setup, which means a company that has in-house legal team, then you keep on networking with the in-house counsels, the in-house legal team, and then see what kind of jobs they offer, what kind, do they have some internships. Some companies have internship options, so the approach has to be customized.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So we have received another questions from Adeline Jones. It's about the legal opportunities that are available in the field of maritime law.
Hmm. This practice area, honestly, I have very little knowledge about. One of my friend, he did LLM in maritime law because he has worked in merchant navy. So I have very limited knowledge about this area. So I won't be able to throw light on this.
Okay, so we have another question by Tiasha Chatterjee. It
Hmm.
is she's asked if it is wise to restrict herself. I'm so sorry, it just went down. Okay,
You can tap on the question; it will be displayed on the screen as well for everyone to see. If you tap,
that's
yeah.
Well,
I
that is not working actually for us.
yeah,
Okay,
I
I
think it only work for you.
yeah, not a problem. So let's start in sequence. I think I have selected one question from Vanshika, and she has asked that what we need to add in our CV to get an internship in a corporate firm. I think this is a similar question that I have just answered. So moving on to next, we have a question that what sort of internship should one do in order to make career in IPR? So again, I will extend my answer that I start discussed about corporate law. IPR in itself is not a law per se; it's a category of law. Within IPR, there are a lot of branches: patents, trademarks, designs, copyrights. Some firms they practice all these areas. Some firms specialize in couple of these areas only. So to understand the IPR as a practice area, we need to see that what are the branches, what kind of work is being done. So when I say what kind of work is being done, there are a lot of case studies available online. You read about IPR case studies,
Yes,
how
sir.
companies approach IPR, and for their IPR needs, they approach the law firms. So what kind of services are expected, what kind of job profile is required. The best way to understand in practice area is to go to LinkedIn, go for jobs, job section, and then search for jobs, and then see the kind. So any decent firm or any company, they will write a very detailed and comprehensive job description. That's a best roadmap you can use to plan your career. 5 years
Yes,
down
sir.
the line, you want to work as an IPR lawyer, what all skills are required? Let's start working on it. Let's have a blueprint in front of us. So always go for sites where legal jobs are listed. Even if you are a student or a fresher, nobody is stopping you from referring to experienced job descriptions. Just read those because that's your future right there, right? That's what you will be doing a couple of years down the line. So why not read it right now and then make notes and then start from the very basics. Leave out, filter out the complex things out of it. But let's start with the basics. So that's a starting point to build a career in IPR, and the same is applicable for any other field as well.
Sir, actually, I had a question
Yeah,
about related to IPR only. Sir, it's more like a lot of people say that it's more like procedural. IPR is more procedural, and other laws are more dynamic. Like they are more into litigation side of like a criminal law or your other civil laws. They are more
right.
into litigation and everything, and IPR is more procedural. So you don't have to be that much good at at litigation or anything like that, and you could still be like a good IPR lawyer if you know all the procedures of trademark and everything.
Right. So a majority, so IPR, like I said, if we start, we have IPR, then we have different branches of IPR and different branches have different procedures. So to talk
Yes,
about
sir.
procedure, there is a procedural part, which you are right. But now with the improvement in digital technology, with the after post-COVID environment, a lot of innovations are happening in digital space, and all these innovations require IPR protection. So the
Yes,
more
sir.
you educate yourself, the more you can build your profile beyond procedure. like court filing, right? I'll give a parallel comparison. Court filing, someone can say that filing, petition format, these are procedural. But then
Yes,
drafting is an art. Argument is an art.
Very true.
Cross
yes, sir.
examination is an art. Seniors, look at any senior doing cross examination, right? It years. Even if in COVID time you can't go to court, just follow bar and bench for live tweet on cases they like live tweet about. Just see the kind of arguments lawyers are doing. It's an art, right?
Yes, sir.
So every procedure will, it's not pure procedure. Before filing for IPR protection, you will have drafting stage, you will have some research. Then there is a procedural part, then there is a post procedural part, because IPR eventually relates to intangible assets. They are equivalent of physical properties. So just like
Yes, sir.
physical property, you have leasing issue,
Land.
you have encroachment, so you have infringement of IPR, you have licensing of IPR, you have franchisee issue. So all these things, the scope is, it all depends on the people you are following. If you meet five people and five people say IPL is procedural, that means you are in wrong group. You change your group then.
Right.
If
Yes,
you
sir.
like procedural, then you are in the right group. If you like procedural aspect. So it all, so like it's a general funda which I follow, that we are an average of five people we surround ourselves with.
Very
Right?
Yes, sir.
So there is
Yes,
a
sir.
saying that if four people are broke and fifth people, and they meet every evening, and they say every evening they just whine about we are broke, we are broke. The fifth person will get broke in 6 months or so. That's a trend, right?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Vice versa, if it's a mix of people where it's a growth mindset that we are broke but we want to grow, we want to come out of this mindset, right? So it all depends on because with social media, with Twitter, with LinkedIn, we have so much of information, and within that information we have a lot of misinformation, or
Right.
maybe we have a lot of, let's say, one-sided information. So it all
Yes,
depends
sir.
on what sources we want to follow, what sources we want to mute, because that's also important. And then only we can take it forward. So it has procedural aspect, but it's not just that IPR is all about procedure. It can be 30-40% procedure, but remaining 60% is a challenging area,
Art.
which will grow in future.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I have one question which is not displayed. I'll read out this is what is my idea of an ideal intern? So it's a very simple answer, be it an ideal candidate for a job or an intern. What I look for is flexibility and open mindedness so that I can train them. Because the kind of work I am doing, the kind of work next generation lawyers are doing when it comes to IPR and technology law, there are no well defined procedures. If you pick up an area, let's say if somebody is practicing real estate, you will have 30-40 years of case laws. If somebody is practicing arbitration, you have case laws going back to 1960, 1965. So you have a lot of ingredients to study. In my practice area, we are building the ingredients. You talk about blockchain, you talk about AI, ML. Go down 2-3 years, these terms don't even exist 3 years back. So we are part where we are building the reference. So we need people. Even it's not something that I know everything. Every day I am also learning new things. I am unlearning things which I learned few years back because the landscape is changing. So I need people who can adapt, who are flexible, who understand the importance of training, flexibility, and not following conventional approach to the last possible, let's say, last possible dot. You need people who are flexible, and you need to make sure that when it comes to situations which are not conventional, the approach that is required is unconventional. So that level of understanding is required. And these skill set, again, nobody is born with it. You, the more you read, the more you study, the more you follow different people, you will adapt yourself. So it's again, it's an ever growing area.
So one thing that all of us really appreciate is that you really like provide opportunities to every student, be it in first year or be it in third year. That is
Yeah,
generally not the case when you try to intern in IPR firms or
right.
advocates. They say that first you learn about IPR, you read everything, you do everything in college, and then you apply. But with you, we get a real time opportunity to, even search for trademarks in classes and everything. So that is
Hmm.
one thing that was very enjoyable in
So there
an
is a
internship.
reason to it. There's a reason. I'll throw some light on it. There's a reason because if I need an intern to specifically assist me in a court matter or in a, let's say, in a negotiation, I would prefer the intern to have at least some knowledge about that law, or maybe there is, they have studied some subject, they have written some research paper. But the kind of internship we are offering right now at present, those are not limited to those needs. What we are offering is we are giving them a chance that when we talk to clients, what's the first thing we do? We understand, okay, we have an intro meeting. So I gave an exercise at how to talk to clients, right? It's an intro meeting.
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
So these things which I always talk about, practical inputs, practical aspects of law practice, so these are missing in the market, and that's what we are focusing on. If in future, if I have a need where I need a trademark, let's say an intern in the trademark department, we are getting a lot of infringement related opinions, I would need someone to have some background, then we would put in that filter as well. So it depends on the need. So if you're talking about firms that hire interns for the litigation department, for the corporate law department, they would have some prerequisites that you should have studied contract law, you should know how contracts work. Then that is totally fine. It depends on employer to employer and the kind of work the interns will be doing. So that's the reason I don't mind a first year law student, interning under me, learning about talking to client, because if he or she is doing that for a couple of years, let's say couple of internships, then after fifth year, these are better position candidates to enter the market. So the goal is different, and hence the requirements are different.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we have a query about inclusions in the cover letter. I have talked about it in the last webinar I did. The video is online. I'll share it again. So I'll quickly brief the cover letter. There is no fixed template. If you pick up any template, make sure to customize it. You're writing to 5 different law firms, have 5 different variations. Why you're writing to a particular law firm? Why now? And why this email? And why should they hire you? So again, a custom approach, and we have discussed this in detail. So I'll share the video maybe probably on Monday. You will just follow me on LinkedIn. I'll share the video on that.
That would be very helpful, sir.
That
Right. So Ayush has asked about my practice area. It's written on LinkedIn. So in simple term, I work with technology companies that have a need which revolves around technology. Be it any issue surrounding their digital product when they are building the product. So I'll quickly expand on it. So let's say clients come to us, they are building a new product. Let's say it's a mobile application. So there are two options. Either they will build the application in-house, or they will go for an external developer or an external company. So they will ask how to protect the idea at this stage so that no one copies it. Because in market like India, any other market, it's very common. The developer will say, I can make it better and I can launch it first for commercial benefit. So how to prevent these scenarios? So if client is doing it in-house, we go for strong contracts, we go for employment contract, we go for non-compete, we go for strict clauses, which have pecuniary damages mentioned on it, monetary clauses. And if they're external developers, we go for external agreements and all that. So my practice area is like this. It is derived by the issues the clients are facing. And I think more or less a lot of lawyers I see on LinkedIn are sharing this, that your practice area is defined by the client and not by you. I would love to do, let's say, litigation, but clients want to stay out of court. Then what can I do? I have to prepare, I have to adapt myself, right? And especially after COVID. So after COVID, a candid observation, like plaintiffs are really unhappy because we had a lot of dates where we were about to get injunctions and those dates are getting adjourned. And some of our defendants clients are really happy because the reliefs against them, which were supposed to be ordered, those are getting adjourned. So this is a unique situation to be in. So, but on both sides, people want to win litigation. They want to have strong contracts. They want to have strong risk mitigation strategy. They take a lot of opinions. A lot of research is involved. So based on the needs of the client, the practice area is defined, and it keeps on changing. It's an evolving process. One question is regarding mooting skills. I have frankly not much value to add because this is something I generally don't follow that much. A lot of students come to me with their moot problems, so I try to provide inputs on preparing their memos and how to understand the problem, understanding the law. So if based on a problem, if anyone is facing something, based on my bandwidth, I would be happy to help. But otherwise, regarding mooting skills, I have not much to add. So you can find the right experts. A lot of people are there who are advising students on that.
so someone had asked that if you could throw your light of your journey in your law school, like how was it?
Sure, I'll come to that. See, my law school journey, it is different because I studied first at a graduation level. I studied my bachelor's in science, then I did my master's in science. I then entered into IP as a consultant. I cleared the patent exam, and then I went for law to expand my footing in the legal sector. So my journey is quite unconventional, and it was more than 12, 13 years ago when I was doing these things. So, and there was when I entered the law school, I already had 3, 4 years of work experience working in different sectors. So again, times have changed, so I rarely give any input that you should do this or you should not do, because you should follow people who have just passed law school and see a lot of new law schools have come up, a lot of new exams have come up, right? We keep
Yes,
on
yes,
reading the news. So yeah,
yes,
follow the latest trend. Follow, talk to people who are teaching, who are closely involved in academics right now. They will guide you better, like how to plan your law school life. So we have one more question, and this is regarding: is it wise to restrict myself in IPR in the beginning, or should I start by working in a firm with no specialization and then over the years narrow it down to apply an IPR firm? So, see, again, there is no thumb rule. If you start with one IPR firm where you are handling, let's say, trademark, copyright, designs, all these areas, you can venture, you can go narrower and go to a, let's say, trademark firm in future. Or let's say if you handle all aspects of IPR and you want a different exposure in corporate law, you can go to a RERA firm, or maybe let's say firm that deals in a lot of contracts and franchising. So see, eventually in simple terms, when I have a CV, when any employer sees a CV, the kind of internships you have is just a reference point. It's not, it doesn't define you as a whole, that this is what student is all about, right? So diversity is also okay. Having a single track is also okay till the time you are able to present yourself as a viable candidate. There's a journal saying in life, all things depend on the story that we tell ourselves, right? So if I have a CV that has a lot of diverse internships, I can see it as a glass half empty, that I don't have any specialized internship. What can I do? Or I can
yes,
pick myself as a candidate that I am better than everyone because I have a lot of exposures. Although they were mini exposure, but still I am in better position. So first of all, we have to convince ourselves that how we are pitching our CV. And to pitch our CV, we need to have a, let's say, a pitch prepared for us. So if we have a niche CV with a lot of internships in a particular area, you apply to those law firms, you have an advantage. There can be a situation where you have, let's say, one internship in IPR, a lot of internships in other areas, and you go to an IPR firm. Then you try to, carve your story that since I have exposure to civil litigation, I understand Evidence Act, so I can play my role, in IPR. Because eventually, no matter what practice area you are in, CPC, CRPC, Evidence Act, these are the backbone. Be it providing legal advice also, right? There are a lot of times when we are formulating policy for technology clients. So we have policy for, let's say, a company that, okay, company is giving devices and the device is having client data. And if the device is lost, so what kind of repercussions are there on the employee, or how to take it, to a conclusion where there are no disputes. So we take care of Evidence Act and issue the original devices are required when it comes to any court case. We anticipate those scenarios. So it
yes,
all depends on the kind of story you tell yourself, convince yourself, and then you have to convince the employer, the hiring manager, and so on and so forth. So I think Rohit has asked question about career in IPR, which more or less we have answered.
yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting question. We have Madhumita is asking, how can a biotech engineer get an internship in the field of IPR? There are two avenues you can go for. One is obviously biotech companies or companies that relate to life science, be it any other related company, and they have the in-house IP team. You can work with them, or law firms that provide services to these companies. So probably you have to read a lot. You have to study patents filed by these companies, who is representing them. So do some research. You will find these avenues. Broadly, two answers. One is law firms catering to biotech companies, and the biotech companies in itself. Shubham has asked, is it possible to have LLM in corporate and business law and then get into practice in IPS sector? It's quite possible. There's no restriction. See, after LLM, you study as an advanced practice area. So if you so when you do an LLM in corporate and business laws and you practice in IPR, that means you have broader avenues to study, because to practice, let's say, IPR licensing, IPR contractual issues. So in a lot of issues, we have intersection of contract law. I'll give an example. So we regularly encounter franchisee in India. So like franchisee, McDonald's and all. In US, in mature markets, we have franchisee laws. In India, we don't have a dedicated franchisee law. It's a combination of contract law, trademark law, and other laws. IT
Okay.
Act, if it's a digital company, right? So in that case, you need to exposure to these laws. And I'm sure if you're doing LLM in corporate and business laws, you are studying some of these areas. So you will find a lot of opportunity in IPR commercialization. When IPR is registered, like we talked about earlier, the procedural part is over. Then if it's an infringement, it will go to court. But otherwise, if IPR has to be commercialized, the companies who own IPR, they want to make money. So in that case, those companies need lawyers who are smart in understanding the commercial aspects of IPR. And then you need an overview of business laws as well. So I think you can definitely go into IPR after doing an LLM in corporate and business laws.
Sir, is science background more helpful? Like if you do an I
There's a lot of discussion on this. So the reason of this discussion is that before 2002, any lawyer, as per the provisions of the Patent Act, any lawyer could go to the patent office and register as a patent agent, and they could, represent the client for the purposes of drafting and filing the patent application and prosecution also. Prosecution
Yes.
means after filing, whatever proceedings happen. From 2002 to 2005, there was, if I'm not wrong, there was a condition that lawyers with science background could register themselves with science graduation or any degree in science or engineering could register themselves as patent agent, and lawyers and non-science lawyers who used to, they were supposed to give an exam. Then there were a lot of tussles happening. Our law was going through a lot of changes. 2005, the law became that there will be an exam to become a patent agent, and the eligibility is a science background,
science background. Yes,
a
sir.
graduation. The reason is this because our law is derived from the UK law. That's a common law.
Common law structure. Yes.
Yeah. And everywhere internationally, that's a requirement that you need to study science because you are drafting patent application for chemical composition, for softwares, for telecom, for semiconductor. So that's a very well-defined practice area. So that's the reason for this. This amendment, this provision got challenged in a writ petition. And there was an order in favor of an advocate that lawyers can also file. Then there was an appeal. I don't know what's the latest status. But there's a small clause written that lawyers can prosecute, advocates can appear for hearings.
Patent dispute.
Yeah, no. Dispute is for appellate board or court. I'm talking about patent office also. There is a provision where you can. I will mention the section later on that there's a provision that advocates accompanied by if the Vakalatnama or the power of attorney has a name of a patent agent. So there are issues, court proceedings are going on. But to answer the science part, if that is required for technical part, let's say a client will come to you that I have developed a new drug formulation. Can I file a patent for it? So if I am a non-science or non-pharma background candidate, I can't search that. You need a technical expert to do that search. And then you need to give an opinion. So technical background helps in definite areas, but when it comes to legal part, lawyers can do that. So there are different areas of IPR. Depending upon your skill set, you can play that role.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, IPR and how to approach internships. So again, you keep on a lookout for firms and lawyers. So I will extend this answer, which the point we were discussing before this joining in this call. It was about independent practitioners.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of infringement actions are happening, and a lot of new law firms and lawyers have come up. There are a lot of boutique practices. So these are sometimes hidden because the lawyer is so busy or the team is so busy that they don't post about internships. So you keep on reading about latest judgments, latest court orders, and then see who are the advocates on record, follow them on LinkedIn or Twitter, see if they have internship requirement. So do some research on that part. Based on that, you will be able to find internship opportunity in a much better way. What is the best area to apply for internship being a fresher? So as a fresher, obviously you cannot apply to internships where, like I said earlier, some basic prerequisites are there as far as experience is concerned, as far as the prior, let's say, internship exposure is concerned. So being a fresher, you go for a firm that offers, let's say, a very basic level research skill. These days, content writing is an upcoming area. I see a lot of legal writers on LinkedIn. They are writing really good stuff. They are regular and they are having their own YouTube channels. They are having blogs. I see a lot of such writers. They have a very active Instagram page where they're sharing nuggets of information by way of interesting content, images.
Yeah, posters also.
Yeah, posters, memes. Memes is
Memes.
something which is like coming up,
Yes, sir.
right? Memes is something which when we are, when we end a busy day, I need some meme too, so I go on some couple of pages. So there are a lot of pages that are coming up. So keep on a lookout to unconventional areas, and that's where the growth is. So basic research, basic drafting skill, contract law, and IPR. I don't know if you're not studied, so I would not recommend the first internship as a fresher. And then
Sir,
obviously
even NGOs, they hire interns.
NGO policy research. So these are the upcoming areas. So you see, I before I get on to other questions, I'll tell a very simple thing which is applied to I think more or less all situations. There is a business angle to law practice. Every law firm, every practitioner is eventually running a practice where the challenge is about cash flow management, because we have to manage our incoming cash flow from the return from the clients, and then we have to manage our expenses and make sure we are always cash flow positive. That's how law firms operate. So the kind of issues the clients will face, those are the issues that we will solve as law firms. And to solve those issues, we will need the support, let's say, of team members and the interns
Yes, sir.
to understand the law practice as a business. And when we talk about that law practice as a business, so the first priority of any practitioner or a firm is client, need of the client. And the needs of the clients, they are changing as per the latest development in the business landscape. There's a new law being proposed, data protection law, new labor law. Clients
Yes,
will
sir.
have those issues. Lawyers will have to solve that. And then those practice areas will grow in coming years. So make sure you have this kind of perspective at the law school level itself, that what we are doing has an impact somewhere in the market. And that's the reason the market will derive the demand. So if today there is a new law being proposed as a bill, it will take 2-3 years to become an act. So by the time you become a lawyer, that will be a new practice area. Again, I'll give the same example of data protection. It's there in public domain since last 3.5 years. Aadhaar, biometric authentication.
Yes, sir.
Now we have National Digital Health Blueprint. We have digital health policy. And with the COVID, we have telehealth consultation. What are the guidelines for doctors and hospitals to provide consultation to patients? How will the patient liability being covered? We have a new consumer protection law, right? So whatever laws are being passed right now, these will be the laws that will shape up a new practice area in future. And then
Even the labor codes that just came recently, I read a post in LinkedIn that you are at par with all the lawyers who have just read these new labor codes, and you can practice and you can read properly, and then you can publish articles. It could be your new expertise.
So I will give a best example of publishing article. I hired a candidate last month for an internship, assessment internship, solely based on her blogs, because she was writing good blogs. I gave her an exercise, and she was, and during interview she said that she was trying to make the best out of the COVID situation. So, and she is a 2020 graduate. So again, we are expanding our team and we are focusing on candidates that are like those who are able to face challenges. Because see, it's very easy to put ourselves down. Oh, there is a COVID, we can't do much. There are a lot less openings, we can't do much. But then there are workarounds also. I'll give a simple example from market. In last 6 months, you will read a lot of news about job loss. You will read a lot of news about the bad
Yes.
shape of our financial economy, right? But there are few sectors where new companies have come up. Hand sanitizers, thermometers. Look at these companies. Everybody's selling hand sanitizer. Every product is now immunity booster, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Right. Some of these are genuine,
Yes,
some of these are not genuine. But these are the new areas that are coming up, and nobody is stopping you from reading about this, from understanding how you can pitch yourself, how you can place yourself in a market like this. So again, a lot of external developments, they shape up the career as well as the practice area in the future. So we have a question about what things stand out in a law student's CV as a recruiter. Um, See, there are certain elements that are essential to a CV, but there is a way to present those that information. Some do's and don'ts. Always present the information in the reverse chronological order. The most recent thing you have done should be at the first page in the top half, because that's where the first glance goes. Eventually, it's about the attention span. Recruiters, employers, they have very less time. They are always constrained on bandwidth. So present them the most important information in the most easiest format. Write customs email subject lines so that I know what email I'm opening. Right? profile of a candidate with expertise in, with exposure to, so that I know this candidate exposure to this practice area, some work, previous work done in competition law, any other law, depending upon employer to employer. So again, how you draft an email, I've written a blog about it. How to write a professional email, the subject line, the cover letter, the email body. So email body and cover letter, they are mostly same. So
Right.
what to write, keep it brief, concise, what not to write. So they will find a lot of practices, but make sure it's a custom approach and you are writing something that is of value to the reader. And readers will be different, so you will have to have different variations.
Sir, adding on to Tanya's question, do you think that publications in journals and certificate courses would actually help in recruiter selecting you over other students?
It's not the only criteria mostly. At least I don't follow that. Some firms are following it, I don't know, but not the only criteria. It's always good to have, but I don't think it's must to have, because these days seeing a lot of posts about just the journals being launched for the sake of
Right.
making money, right? So there is an over abuse of process everywhere. So make sure that you check the reputation of journal. Make sure that the content you are writing is not just for the sake of publishing. It's something you have written which you want to share with others.
Yes,
So
sir.
I have seen in last 1.5 year a lot of let's say fresh graduates, they're starting their own YouTube channel. So I think that's the best way to know someone. If I need to know someone, I can just go to their channel, see their previous videos. That will give the perception that whatever I am discussing them during the interview, that is something which is natural, or that is just for the sake of interview. So if you have that level of presence, I think that's the best way. I am seeing a lot of students. I saw a podcast also about let's
Right.
say, right, in the legal field. So a lot of
Yes,
people are finding unique ways. So with LinkedIn stories coming up, we will have influencers also sharing a lot of stories. So let's, God bless us with that. So let's go to
So
the next.
there were many advocates saying that they were receiving video CVs as well, like students sending 5 minutes or 2 minutes short videos where they, instead of sending CVs, they explained what they have done. And so it was
I think that,
really
yeah, that's an excellent point. And rather than just sending CV, you can upload your different profiles. That okay, you can upload an intro video, a short intro, a long intro, maybe. And one thing which I have been close to academics even while practicing, because I act as visiting faculty. I meet a lot of students. So there is nothing like, so even if you're in first year, second year, sharing YouTube video of yourself taking a session with a first year student. Like there was a question, how to start a career in internship as a fresher.
right.
yes,
So
sir.
if somebody is a fresh graduate, she or he has spent 5 years in a law school, they can answer that question. I would find that answer to be more relevant than what I will answer, because I have left law school way back,
Yes,
and my
sir.
circumstances of law were really different. The market was different, right? So now we are in next 3-4 years, we will have candidates who are like born and brought up on Zoom. I saw a meme
Yes, sir.
yesterday. I saw a meme yesterday about, like, there was a comparison between bunking school or college. So earlier the candidate had to leave the campus. Now simply put your video and audio on mute and you are on the bunk, right?
Mm.
So
Yes, sir.
things are changing. Some things are becoming easier. Some things are getting difficult. So evolve. Keep yourself, at par with the developments, and that's the best way to go about it.
Sir, adding to that publication question only. So, what
Mhm.
kind of publication do you prefer for IPR? Like, where should we get our papers published if
there is
we want
no
to get?
there is no preference that I like this, I don't like this. I want to see writing skill. It should not be plagiarized. It should be original content. It should be well written. It should be a reading reader, like it should be worthy of my time as a reader. Even if it's not about IP or not my core practice area, I want to read it for just for the sake of reading. It should have an introduction. It should have a description. It should have a pattern, shorter sentences, active voice, proper grammar, basic rule of writing, right?
Yes,
And don't use complex language unnecessary just to show that you are smart. No, just use the words which are most relevant, which I can understand quite easily as a reader, right? Sometimes it can be other way around also. You want just the experienced lawyers to understand your content. Just make sure the people readers know that who's the target audience.
yes, sir.
Any well written content writing is always appreciated. I will never say this is the badly written piece unless there is some problem in that, just because I don't relate to the practice area. So that's it. And now we have a question regarding how to choose after law school, litigation, dispute resolution, corporate and judicial services. See, one thing you will know that I see judicial. I have very less experience, but I have seen candidates that they sometimes put as a priority list. कि ये नहीं हुआ तो ये कर लेंगे. If this doesn't happen, we'll do this or do this, right?
Yes, sir.
That's one way of going about it. कुछ नहीं हुआ तो we will do this, and then IPL is also a last priority. So that is okay, but I would say have some logic. So it has to be logical that if you are really good, if you're really disciplined to reach court even post COVID, once the things are normal, reaching court daily, networking with people in the, let's say, court blocks, then litigation is your area, because that's where the relationships happen. You meet a lot of other lawyers, and a lot of briefings come from other lawyers also. You meet a lawyer friend who is into taxation and you are into IPR, so then you can have a mutually reciprocal arrangement. So if you're good with physical networking, court areas. If you are an introvert, right, the litigation not be the first choice. There are a lot of introverts, like they don't want to talk to people, like they don't want to socialize that much. It's okay. You go for research, you go for writing. There are some people like who are really good at explaining things. Like litigation mein mushkil hoga, I can't do litigation, I can't do this, but I can explain things. Start a YouTube channel, get into legal training. Training is a big area. It's not advertised that
Yes,
much.
sir.
It's an upcoming area. Who will train the people with the new areas of law? Nobody is going back to law school. In our country, we don't have the system of continuing legal education as compared to US or other countries where lawyers have to study and pass some credits every year. We don't have that in India. So we have a system of trainings. So just don't make your priority list without any logic. Based on your strengths, you will have your priority list and then you go for that. Are publications in paid journals good? See, I have a very simple answer to this. One thing is that you have a lot of publication and you want one more, then paying for it, and if you have the paying capacity, it doesn't matter. But for a candidate, hypothetically saying, if the quality is so bad that you're not finding a free journal to publish, then even if you find a paid journal, the person who is evaluating your profile will figure it out. If I am evaluating a candidate, there are 10 publications, 2 are paid and 8 are free. It's okay. There is no demerit in that. But if I'm evaluating a candidate who has 5 publications and all are paid, that's a red flag. I would say that you should have rather, your own. You should publish it on your own blog. अपना blog ही कर लो यार, मतलब start with your own blog.
Right.
If you have confidence in your writing, so the first filter is the quality of your writing, the confidence you have in your writing, right?
So there are so many UGC approved journals also, and then NLU journals are doing very good.
Definitely,
And
there
there
are
are
options. Yeah. And even if you submit to a lot of journals and you have a lot of research notes which you edited from the final copy, that you can share on your blog, because I think all journals have a policy that the content has to be original. It should not be published anywhere. So a lot of notes are there, a lot of preparation that you do. Having a blog is never harmful. It will always help you. Moving on. So I think there was some network issue. Now we are okay. How is the life of an IPR advocate? So in simple term, as compared to the other practice area, we are a bit closer to creative work, because IPR relates to creation of mind. So
Yes, sir.
it's not a conventional practice area like, let's say, real estate or property dispute or family law, where issues are quite similar, the solutions are quite similar. IPR is an evolving area, and it will evolve like more rapidly in future because of the changing business landscape. So it's quite closely connected to the business landscape, and it's evolving because of its creative nature. What sort of profile you should build for being a construction, infrastructure, and real estate lawyer, and how would you rate it as a practicing area? See, real estate with RERA and all, its growing area, infra has to grow. The more you keep updated yourself, I don't have much to share in this area because I don't do a lot of work in this specialized area. But again, it has potential because construction, infrastructure, the disputes are growing. and how to solve disputes outside court, contractual issues, research issues. So it's a growing area. That's what I can comment. How can we move ahead in the field of IPR? See, once you are part of the industry as, let's say, as an associate to begin with, or your first job, you will find your ways depending upon the first job, the kind of work you enjoy. Some I have a lot of friends who are really good at procedural work. They have a lot of exposure. They're doing it for the last 10, 12 years. They have seen the law getting changed and how procedure impacts the grant of IPR, the grant of various types of IPR. So it depends on the first couple of jobs you have. You will find your way because eventually it's a ride. You only have to move forward. The speed can vary, but you will always move forward. Sir, how to grab internships at tier one law firm? Again, there is no magic formula. There is no magic formula to that. I I think that's the most asked question, that tier one law firm jobs. So there are certain discussions around the kind of requirements they have when it comes to marks, or when it comes to, let's say, the law school name. So
Yes, sir.
these things are realities of market. If it is there, it is there. You have to find a way to work in, let's say, in top tier. If you have 8 to 10 law firms, you target the bottom five of those, not the top five, and start working on those. One area I can suggest is that you go for law firms that are started in recent years by the alumni of these law firms, because eventually, in your CV, the skills will matter most than the brand name. I'm not saying brand name does not matter, it matters, but skills can supersede the brand name if you are skillful enough. So there are a lot of lawyers, highly reputed lawyers, experienced lawyers, and they leave tier one law firm and start their practice, and then they have their teams. So try to work with these teams and build your way in these circles if you have. Eventually, you have to build your skills. Working with a particular law firm is not the career goal, right? It's just a
So
means to an end.
some, yeah, even some students who have already interned in tier one law firms, they always say that, it is not that difficult if you apply like at least 2, 3 months prior to the period of internship. Like always apply early. That is one thing.
Exactly. You talk to people. These days you have a lot of advantages of being part of WhatsApp group, Telegram groups, online discussions, where
Yes, sir.
these tips are being shared. So follow that, build your network with your peers, and then you will find the way. There is no magic formula. There is no single answer to this. Aviation law in the future will expand, especially with the drones. So aviation law as of now is just limited to the aviation sector. So it will expand for sure, because drones will be a significant part of the market. So it will grow. As of now, we just have very base level regulations for drones. So this will grow for sure.
Sir, we had a question on our email ID also.
Mhm.
Opportunities in cyber law at international level. And second question was, what are the global experiences in the field of IPR or internship for internships?
So the first one is, let's take it one by one. The first one is,
So
Opportunities in cyber
cyber
law
law
at international level, and if you also can tell on at domestic level also, like in India.
cyber. As far as cyber law is concerned, if you go by the history of the world, you will not have a world war like we had before. We will have a cyber war, which is happening. Cyber warfare is happening everywhere. So
Yes,
cyber
sir.
security is something which is of utmost importance to everyone. Like before going live, we were discussing about Neeti Shastra and how to have the web page secure. Like every website has to have that level of security.
Yes, sir.
So any website that starts new, just a basic blog website, you have to make it secure. It's prone to getting hacked. So cyber security, every company is investing a lot of money in that. And with digital transactions, with fintech getting into the mainstream, and you will. So I'll give a small example. When Uber started in India, and just like all other countries, Uber did not have a local office. Uber had a very small team, and then there were a lot of regulatory issues. So earlier we had companies without having local presence offering digital services, but now that is not possible. You need to have a local data center, local customer care support, local corporate entity. So at every level, cyber law is something which is, see, cyber law, when the IT Act was there in India, the first act, Then the term was called cyber law, domain name. Then people used to think कि scope है नहीं है, क्या करें? We should not, go for it. Should we go for it? But
Yes,
now
sir.
this is not a question. It goes by default. Cyber law is some field that will grow beyond means. Like, you can't expect the issues that companies will face in this area. So there is no doubt in that. Second question was,
So global experiences in the field of IPR, like with the scope of IPR at a global level.
um, see, IPR, the first part is always jurisdictional issue because every jurisdiction laws are different and you have to be practicing in that jurisdiction. Internationally, it's all about policies and it's about transactions, global, international contracts, business agreements where IP is an issue. So everyone knows that a very common business model is that we have a company in US and a company in India. The target market is US, the customers are in US, the sales are happening in US, but development is happening in India, right? So IP that is being created here can get a there is a possibility of infringement. How to prevent that? So you need to understand that how can a US company enforce a contract in India? What kind of contracts you need? Again, there is no doubt there is a huge scope in this area.
Yes, sir.
Arbitration and mediation. So there's a question on LinkedIn about arbitration and mediation. Um, See, these areas as a journal will grow because no matter we are having a lot of advancements in virtual courts, we are having virtual hearings, but at the same time, companies, clients, they want to stay out of the prolonged procedure of courts. So mediation is something that will generally be more suited for individual and personal dispute. In corporate dispute, it's catching up. So I'll tell one distinction here, which we have seen and which we advise clients. Arbitration proceedings are quite similar to court proceedings, and if there is an appeal later on, so the documents can be accessed by third parties. The information can be accessed by third parties unless there is an order to seal the information.
Yes.
Mediation is always confidential. So I have done a mediation training, and we were taught that at the whatever notes the mediator prepares, whatever research, whatever information is brought in front of the mediator, at the end of the day, after the mediation proceedings, only the agreement of settlement or mediation is executed. Rest all information is discarded. So any corporate dispute, any personal dispute where there's a confidentiality issue, mediation is always preferable. And that's the reason mediation is growing. You will see a lot of people offering training on mediation. You will see people offering certificates on mediation because people don't know these nitty gritties.
Yes, sir.
So
So
that's probably the reason why Bar Council has made it compulsory for law schools to have mediation as a subject. That was like a very good initiative from their side.
exactly. So now if students will study during the early stages, then only they will understand the importance. Earlier mediation was just an add-on. Kar lenge, nahi karenge, it's okay. But mediation will grow. So if anyone wants to study, there is a website called WIPO, World IP Organization. So you can simply Google about WIPO IP mediation. So there are a lot of international case studies where IPR disputes are getting resolved through mediation because it saves a lot of cost, it saves time, and IP, lot of confidentiality is involved. For example, there's a dispute between pharma companies, and if it goes to arbitration, and then the party against whom there's an adverse order, it goes to the appropriate court. So all the arbitration document will be filed in the court, and the snippets from those documents will form part of the final order. But
Yes,
when it
sir.
comes to mediation, nothing will come out of the mediation room. Every document will be shredded. Only the settlement agreement will come, and that too will be highly closely guarded by the parties involved. So whenever there's any confidential dispute, mediation will be preferred over arbitration, and hence both these areas will have huge scope. Being a second year law student, should I focus more on mooting or on internship? I would say balance both. See, mooting, you will have the advantage of researching, the drafting, presenting your arguments. So anything that adds more value. There is no, like, I can't pick one over another. Anything that picks, that gives you more value, you pick that. And you will learn this as in like when you progress.
So I think that has been a very common because the importance of legal writing as well. So I think if in terms of internships, it all depends on the area you're applying. Maybe for litigation internship, they would focus more on mooting and research work. So it also
Right,
depends on
right. Exactly. It all depends on person to person, the practice area to practice area, and maybe at first. So, see, one general point is that you will not have all the answers at that moment. So, if I go back to that question, is mooting better or internship better? You will spend years learning, getting to the answer, and that experience is something that will count. Nobody will judge you that okay, oh, you have two mooting experience and only one internship. No, nobody will judge you like that. If you are
Yes, sir.
judging yourself like that, then that's not right way of judging yourself. So again, it's all about the story that you tell yourself. How should a law student study the IPR law in law colleges? As in, what areas need to be focused, and how can student develop practical skills? A very important question by Akshay. So, see, in every law school, whether IPR is a mandatory subject or an elective, you will end up studying the law, the Bare Act.
Yes, sir.
But actual practice is beyond Bare Act. So I would suggest you see my videos which I have shared, which I think Rahul was talking about regarding the practical aspects of IPR, trademark searching, and all that, because those are the touch points we have when we're talking to clients. So those are the practical points. You will find a lot of content on that. Study those beyond the Bare Act.
So, like, I would like to add, have always told us that if you want to work in the field of IPR, you should go to the websites like Wipro. You should just like scan the whole website and learn everything there is to learn in IPR.
Exactly. There are a lot of data repositories, WIPO,
Yes,
at
sir.
local IP websites. So you will find, so like I said, find any resource that is beyond the Bare Act. That's where learning will happen. Bare Act is important, but it's not the only thing that matters. So we have the favorite question that we were waiting for. So we discussed about this. Coming from a non-NLU college makes it difficult part to pay for private university students because most of them form prefer NLU students. How to tackle with this? So there are certain employers that put a filter on the name of college, but like I said, there are various other employers also. Find those. Finding those employers is not easy, and that's the reason everybody is going uh, behind the reputed firm. I'll give a simple example. In pre-COVID scenario, if you go to any local court, local chamber, you see lawyers operating. So those lawyers are running many law firms. Every litigator is a law firm in itself. It's just that they are handling all departments all together. They are issuing invoices to client. They are handling finance department. They are handling interns. They are handling HR. They are handling admin and all that. So it's just a matter of finding the first, let's one or two opportunities. Once you have that, then this will not matter. But at the same time, if you are spending time and all the effort in approaching employers that just focus on the brand name, then you have to come out of it. There are other ways also. But if you spend all the time and effort there, then you will feel dejected, because then you will always say that I am getting rejected, I am not getting selected, because you are not follow. It may be 70-80% of the market. Let's assume hypothetically it's 80% of the market, but remaining
Yes, sir.
20% is untapped. Let's go there.
So,
Lot of
with respect to this question only, like what Neeti Shastra is doing, we are also like associating with lawyers and law firms who do not look into the law school. So, in our application form, we have specifically removed the question of what is your law school. So, that
hmm,
is only done to actually reduce and curb this bias that is taking place around India about take preferences for taking laws NLU students only. So to curb that bias, that is the reason why we have removed this question from our form as well. And so many advocates and firms are happy with that. I'm sure there are many advocates who are saying that we prefer NLU students, but then on the same side, there are some who are saying that we don't care about your school. We need merit.
see, I will not use the word bias also, because it's a global practice. There are companies that prefer Ivy League students. There are companies, consulting companies, and all that, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you read about news about Goldman Sachs or World Bank, they will always have, the top management will have degrees from Ivy League. So it's
Yes,
a
sir.
trend that's everywhere. So let's not call it a bias. Let's call it, let's say, a practice which is not favoring us. Let's use that, which is adverse to us if we are not from the, let's say, reputed law
No.
college.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So then, so I will expand this answer that I'm a first generation lawyer. I'm not from a reputed law school, or I am sending a lot of emails, not getting replies. ठीक है? Common messages on my thread that we are not getting replies. It's common for
Yes, sir.
everyone. So these are just the things that exist. If we are calling it a bias, that means we are not valuing ourselves properly. That's how I would say. It's like, I will give a very simple example. It's like a group of friends who are meeting every evening, and 10 friends are there. 8 of them, they own Apple devices, they have latest iPhone, they have Apple Watch, and the remaining 2 are not Apple, they are using Android. And every evening they're making fun of Android. कि यार Android है, Apple नहीं है, ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है. So that means those two people, they have to change that group. If they go to the same group daily, then it's a bias. So I would suggest that there are a lot of other employers also. At the same time, you will say that finding them is not easy. That's a challenge, right? So there is a bias.
That's very
It can be a bias, but I will not say that take that bias to your heart and say that I have a bias every time I go out. It's okay. It's there. It exists. It's okay. Let's move on to the other things in life. If you make a list of top Fortune 500 companies, you see their management, you will find a majority of them a pattern of hiring from top B schools. Then what about other B schools? Right? People find their way. Sometimes it takes more time. For some, it takes less time. But in any case, we can't just let the bias, hold ourselves to 100%. We can't do anything. Let's acknowledge that, okay, there is a scenario, it can be a bias to people. But at the same time, there are a lot of other opportunities also. Like you said, NGOs. Now, very few NGOs will say that we want reputed law school students.
true.
Because वहाँ कोई जा ही नहीं रहा है. Obviously, people are not going there. Right? So you will find companies that are doing policy research. So find those companies. I'll give one more, let's say, tip to find companies. So every new law that is being introduced, every bill, the relevant department, that department invites public comments.
Yes, sir.
There was for
The
data privacy, and then there was for, let's say, digital health policy and all that. So so they will give a window of, let's say, one month, 2 weeks, 10 days, and people have to write in with comments. So if you follow those public department websites, there will be notification for invitation for public comments.
Yes, sir.
Let's say the deadline to submit comment is 1 month from now. After deadline, they publish those comments, and you will see almost 30-40 firms, individuals, entities giving their comments. Out of these 30-40 entities, you take out the reputed law firms. Remaining are target employers. Now, candidates who write to them, they will get some internship or job offer, so that vacancy will never get listed on job portal.
That's true, sir. That's a
That-
very great.
That's how you. And I'm
That's
not
a smart way, actually.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything that is rocket science. You have to invest hours. You have to do a lot of. It's a very basic common sense.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You like a journalist, you like what she or he is writing, you follow them on Twitter, you give their comments on email. You might get an internship in legal writing to help them with the research, because a lot of journalists, the problem they face is that they have deadlines to give the piece to the editor. During the deadline, they don't have the time to do legal research.
Yes,
You
sir.
work with 2 journalists, for free of cost. In third, they will give your name in the article, and that's a digital footprint, right?
Right.
So while some students are struggling for paid journals, another student has a name published in, let's say, Economic Times or Times of India. Look at the impact on the CV,
Right.
Yes, yes.
right? Now, if you are helping the journalist will not tell you that you are not from reputed law college. I will not take your inputs, because they will focus on your inputs and not your CV as a name of law school. Right? So
Yes,
these things matter. It will be a cliche to say that follow your passion, but eventually, if your passion is writing, research, follow people who love that, who value that. You will find the opportunities there,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
right? So moving on to next, how can we make an edge so that our chances of getting selected is more? As again, we discussed this before, and I will explain it again. Do things which you think are your strengths, which you can showcase, which can help you showcase your strength in the best possible way. Just because three of your colleagues submitted an article for a journal, just don't do it for the sake of doing it. So focus on issues that matter to law firm. Talk to different lawyers, different law firms. See the kind of conversation that is happening on LinkedIn, and try to be part of that in a meaningful way, and not just part of, let's say, a herd mentality. That's the answer. I think top tier firms we have already answered. My area of practice already discussed. What to do to become a patent or trademark attorney? Patent, I have already discussed. Science background, there is a criteria, but litigation,
sir.
that's not a criteria. Trademark, focus on IPR, follow people who do trademark practice, and you will get the idea.
I think sir questions are repeating now. Like different students are asking different questions.
Yeah. So I'm getting some testimonials also. Thank you for that. Akansha has left a comment. Okay. I'll just skip through some which are repeated questions so that we save time on that.
So there's a question by Sahil Bajaj. It's about the scope of CS and LLB in IPL, if you're aware about that.
See, this is one combination that I would say is evergreen. It was always in demand. It will always be in demand because CS is a statutory position. You
Yes, sir.
study hard for that, and obviously, I think everyone knows that CS, LLB, and CA. I know a lot of people who do all three. Okay, that's the best thing you can do,
Right.
right? There was a saying. I will just just to lighten the mood. There was a saying when I was growing up in our family that people used to say that if you have three children, one should be doctor, one should be lawyer, one should be policeman. For life. Okay? So that because those were the only issues people used to face in 70s, 80s. So CS, LLB, CA combination, you pick any two, and you can always the law is that you have to enroll. You have the signing authority only for one. So if you are a bar council member, you cannot practice as a CS or a CA, but you can advise on that, and similarly for other areas. So that combination is evergreen. There is no doubt on that because every company will have a need, and every company, even if they have in-house expert, they will go for an external advisor also because there are a lot of issues. CS is always mandatory, so I will not comment that it's good or bad. It's always good to be this. It's a safest bet. Flip side is it will not grow as fast. It will grow at a static pace. But that's like some people want to play safe, so it's an evergreen field. CS, CA, LLB with LLB, it's a combination that's always in demand. Yes, the candidates are in large numbers, so there can be an issue of getting the right opportunity, but that will not be a deterrent.
Yes, sir.
So
Sir, one more
yeah.
question that is repeating is actually from Prabal, and it has been asked by many. Can you please share your views on sports law?
On sports law.
Yes, sir.
So I have few people on LinkedIn I follow. They are they are practicing sports law. They organize sessions. They share content. So follow them. And since it's not my core area, all I can say is it will grow. Look at the growth in IPL. Even during pandemic, I was watching IPL last night. So we are watching IPL during
Yes, sir.
pandemic, right? We are not sure whether we'll be alive after a few months or not if we are hit by COVID, but still we are enjoying IPL. So sports
Right.
is growing. Professional sports is growing apart from cricket also. So follow sports lawyer. Since it's not my area, so I will not advise what to do. Follow those lawyers. There are a lot of good lawyers on LinkedIn who are sharing good content. So Aman has asked a question that did you ever contemplate doing an LLM in IP or technology law universities in US? I was thinking about it. So see, LLM, when someone asks, since I have not done it, so I can't advise on the exact merit, demerit, how to go, but a very general filter. If you want to work in any particular country, it's easier to work in that country when you have LLM, when you study from that country. That's a basic thumb rule everyone knows. And when it
Yes,
comes
yes,
to
sir.
IPR, when it comes to IPR is much, let's say, better structured in mature markets. It's growing in India. I'm not denying that, but it's better structured. It's better position in growing markets, in mature markets like US, Europe, Singapore. If you want to work with those lawyers, education will help. There are a lot of courses like LLM. You have MS in innovation. So again, if you want to work in a particular country in future, you want to settle in that country, always go for LLM, or you want to learn from the best. So yeah, so I thought about it, but things never fell in place, so it's okay. So if people think about it, yeah, it's a good field.
Yes, sir.
CS I have answered. Online courses,
Certificate. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So online courses putting value on CV. They see online courses again. If you are a there are courses by WIPO which are internationally certified courses. DL1, I think 101 is free. It doesn't matter if it's a free course, paid course, online course, offline course. If you think that after doing course you have some better value on a profile, it's definitely good to have those courses. I can't suggest any diploma because there are a lot of offerings today. I can't suggest that because I can't pick anyone. So talk to people who are doing it, who have done it, their good experiences, their bad experiences. Take a call on that. So Ayush, I think I answered this. He's asking that do you think we should add in the email body as well as about the cover letter? So email body and cover letter are mostly synonymous. More or less, they should be same, one or two paras. There's no difference. When I say cover letter, that means email body only. And if you think that your cover letter is almost full pager, but you don't want to send a that long email, you shorten it to two paras. So, but they have to be in sync.
It's always better to write the cover letter in the email content only. Otherwise, there are two attachments, and then in the mail, you just write, please find attached the cover letter and CV.
Right. So I think more or less we are through with time also, and more.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's pick up this last question about drafting skills. See, these days a lot of courses about drafting. People are, which is a good thing. No course can be perfect. Let's say pick to learn drafting, but it will give you some benchmark, some reference point. And the best drafting you will learn when you work with someone whose drafting is good. The best drafting I have learned is working with my senior. So that's true for everyone. And if you think that at present you're not finding the right opportunity, start reading judgments because everyone knows in the initial few pages of the judgments, they are extracts from the drafting from both the parties.
Yes, sir.
Start reading the judgment, see how a point is being conveyed, and try to meet people. After COVID, you just meet lawyers in your local courts and see how they draft, what kind of orders they get. So that's the best way to learn drafting. I think we will take one more because a different question. It's from just a second. Yeah. No, yeah, this was another question. How can one join a law firm in a foreign country? Like I said, legal is so any country they have a different set of laws and regulations. Some countries they offer opportunities to foreign practitioners. In Singapore, you have that a provision. In Hong Kong, you have that. You have to go through certain level of trainings. So based on a country, you follow the basic training that is required as a foreign consultant. Once you do that, then you are eligible to work in a foreign law firm. Neha, I think we have discussed that. You follow my updates on LinkedIn. You can go onto the website. And again, I will not comment on any particular law school, but there are few employers who are very particular about the type of law school and those who are not. So depending upon the type of employer, you will have to change your approach. I think we are more or less done. We are more than 1 hour into this. So what do you say? Should we close this?
Definitely, sir. And we would request for everyone to send their suggestions and their feedback in the comment box, and they can always message us for future sessions also. That would be great.
Sure. So I think we have one before I give my closing comment. Should I prefer litigation? If you have the skills, you can do both. Because I was waiting for this question, but it did not come. It came right now. So let's discuss this.
Yes, sir.
See, during 80s and 90s, in every court, there were a handful of lawyers who were doing law practice. There was no mechanism to print the cause list on website. There was no mechanism to print the court orders. The e-courts were practically non-existent. So every court was dominated by those set of lawyers. But with the advent of technology, you can visit any court's website, you can see court orders, you can see cause list, you can see which lawyer is representing which client. So it all depends on how you use this information to, to just erase this disadvantage that you are not a first generation lawyer. There are ways to do it, and you can easily do it. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. We'll do the next
Thank
session.
you, sir, for such an insightful session. It was great
Yes.
having you with us.
Great moderation.
And thank you for inviting us, sir.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you for inviting us, sir.
Thanks. Take care.
We
Bye.
learned a lot actually.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.